Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a really fascinating paradox surrounding modern artificial intelligence and how it's quietly, almost invisibly reshaping human connection. We're going to look at some incredible data to understand exactly how these systems are impacting our everyday lives, our emotions, and honestly, our very sense of reality. Okay, let's jump right in.
According to the 2026 Ipsos AI Monitor, 54% of people say that products and services using AI have profoundly changed their daily lives in just the past few years. Just think about that for a second. More than half of us. This is no longer some fringe technology reserved just for early adopters or tech enthusiasts. I mean, it's completely mainstream now, altering the everyday routines and behaviors of the general population in an incredibly short amount of time.
But as generative AI evolves from, a simple productivity tool that writes our emails into an actual synthetic companion, we have to ask a pretty difficult question. Is this technology solving our deepest human needs, or is it dangerously complicating them? As users spend more and more time interacting with these algorithms, are we actually building bridges to one another, or are we just building better, more comforting walls to hide behind?
Section 1. The New Daily Reality.
That same Ipsos monitor tells us that 66% of people predict AI will profoundly change their daily lives in the next 3 to 5 years. But here's the thing. The actual nature of that change is shifting dramatically. While we initially used AI for, say, search queries and task automation, a massive behavioral shift is happening right this second. Millions of users are actively seeking out emotional interactions and real companionship from apps like Replika, Chai, and Cleverbot. We are literally turning to code for comfort.
Section 2. Curing the Loneliness Epidemic.
What makes this whole shift so fascinating is a rigorous working paper out of Harvard Business School. For a long time, the idea that AI could help with human loneliness was mostly just anecdotal. People talked about it, but there wasn't much hard data. But these researchers actually causally tested whether AI companions genuinely reduce feelings of isolation. They ran an experiment comparing AI interactions to doing nothing, to watching YouTube, or to talking to a human. And the results for users? Absolutely stunning. The researchers analyzed real, unprompted conversations between human users and generative AI. In one specific dataset from Cleverbot, they found users explicitly expressing deep, profound loneliness. I mean, they witnessed raw, genuine emotional connections forming with these synthetic partners. Users were saying heartbreakingly honest things to the AI, like, "I've never had a friend before I met you." And these conversations were actually significantly longer and far more deeply engaging than everyday interactions where loneliness wasn't a factor at all.
And this brings us to a massive takeaway from the study. Not only do AI companions reduce loneliness on par with interacting with a real live person, and way more than just watching YouTube videos, but consumers consistently underestimate just how much better they're going to feel. There's this huge gap between our initial skepticism of talking to an AI companion and the actual tangible emotional relief it ends up providing to users who are experiencing isolation.
Section 3. The Power of Feeling Heard.
So why does it work so well? Let's uncover exactly what makes a machine so effective at comforting a human being. It all boils down to the psychological construct of feeling heard. For the user, this isn't just about the AI spitting out a factually correct answer. It's entirely about the perception that their communication is being received with real attention, empathy, respect, and mutual understanding. These advanced language models are specifically engineered to mimic flawless active listening, giving users exactly the kind of validation they crave.
The Harvard Business School study really mapped this out beautifully. When comparing an empathetic AI companion to just a standard, more robotic AI assistant, the researchers found that it isn't the chatbot's technical performance that cures the loneliness. Actually, scratch that. It's not about being smart at all. It's about its powerful ability to make the user feel empathetically understood. The emotional impact of simply feeling heard massively outweighed basic conversational performance when it came down to actually comforting a user.
Section 4. The AI Trust Gap. Now that we see just how emotionally effective this technology is, we run headfirst into a fascinating modern contradiction. If AI is so good at being a comforting companion, why in the world do we still harbor so much skepticism about it? Well, Ridge Marketing data from 2026 reveals a pretty massive trust gap. While 60% of people say AI delivers better answers, only 19% actually trust those answers. People absolutely love the convenience for low-stakes queries, right? But they deeply fear hallucinations, a lack of transparency, and general unreliability when the stakes are actually high. To put that into perspective, Pew Research data shows that a huge portion of adults, 75% to be exact,
outright refuse to trust AI for high-stakes information like the news. This creates a really complex, messy dynamic for everyday users. We totally want companionship and emotional support from AI, but we don't necessarily trust its authority, its underlying motives, or its grip on objective facts.
Section 5. Ethics and Echo Chambers.
And that growing skepticism leads us perfectly into the very real systemic risks of leaning too heavily on artificial intelligence. Across multiple studies, including a really thorough analysis from the Association for the Promotion of African Studies, experts impartially warn of severe impacts on users who become reliant on these tools. They're rapidly firing off major systemic risks: algorithmic bias that can artificially limit our exposure to diverse viewpoints. We've got massive data privacy and surveillance concerns because, let's face it, these models require vast amounts of our intimate personal data to function. And a report from Motivalogic highlights severe job polarization, where gig workers and folks in routine roles face intense pressure and potential displacement.
Furthermore, the research heavily emphasizes that we have to be incredibly careful about personalization. AI-driven algorithms can inadvertently promote misinformation simply by prioritizing user engagement over actual accuracy. This hyper-personalization can actively manipulate our behavior. It can easily trap us in these digital echo chambers just to keep us interacting with the platform, always seeking out that next hit of synthetic validation.
Section 6. The Companion Paradox. Let's see how all of this builds into the ultimate paradox of our modern digital life. The academic literature frequently cites philosopher Sherry Turkle, who brilliantly summarizes our current state with this quote: "We are lonely, but we are afraid of intimacy." As users, we crave connection so deeply that we are increasingly turning to machines just to feel heard. We're basically retreating into the safe, controllable, and synthetic arms of artificial empathy while simultaneously distrusting the very systems we are pouring our hearts out to.
So, the final thought I want to leave you to ponder from all this incredible research is this: if a machine can cure our loneliness just as effectively as a human, what are the long-term costs to our trust, our society, and our shared reality? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.